Good morning. My name is Shaun Hardy. This is the final project for ENG 315 Business Professional Writing. My topic is Final Business Report for Enlisted Professional Military Education. Instructor is Mrs. Barbara Green. Today's date is the 25th of August 2019. And I'd like you guys to take a look at this slide. It's pretty simple. It has a simple moniker on it. It says draw an airplane. I want you guys to take out a piece of paper and actually draw an airplane for me. And if you don't have a piece of paper and a pen or writing utensil, just think of it through your mind and how you would go about drawing an airplane. And we'll see if it comes up to what I'm looking for when I say, hey, I want you to draw an airplane. Very soon you're going to see it from, it's going to come into the screen here about what I want you to draw. And my bet is that it's not going to quite match what you've drawn or what you've come up in your head. And there's a reason for that because I gave you no direction. You kind of had an idea of what you wanted to do. You kind of know how to draw, but you didn't know exactly what I was looking for. And that kind of is going to be the basis of my persuasive essay here as I make a case to establish support for developing enlisted personnel for joint assignments. Now, this effort is going to be accompanied by describing the current state of joint operations training development and the problems surrounding it. Then we'll move into the proposal to increase inter-service and enlisted professional military education, the reinstitution of joint warfare into the curriculum, and the establishment of the in-residence enlisted joint warfare school. And then finally, I'll go ahead and wrap up with the implementation plan, which includes working with the JECC, or Joint Enlisted Curriculum Conference, to establish a lesson plan, Air Force Headquarters solidify manpower requirements, and then Area Education and Training Command for budget concerns, ensuring that the elements of my proposal to you are successful through completion. And with that, we'll step into the current state. Current military environment requires that soldiers, airmen, sailors, and Marines be trained and proficient in many aspects of joint service operations. The chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Joseph F. Dunford, your bottom left, stated as one of his 3 priorities, the future operating environment will place new demands on leaders on all levels. Our leaders must have the training, education, experience to meet those demands. Now, when General Dunford said that, he was quite a few years after what you see there, Mr. Goldwater and Mr. Nichols' Act of 1986, what they came up with. And essentially, that act was passed as a means of addressing those concerns, right, by bolstering joint capabilities of the United States Armed Forces. Now, the truth is, there are limited educational opportunities for the enlisted corps. No acts or laws have been passed, i.e. the Goldwater-Nichols Act for officers, but not enlisted, directing the training for us. And few condiments are out there for us, and we've been limited to mainly computer-based training. For example, Senior Joint Professional Military Education 1 and 2, which myself, I have also done, and then a few classes offered at the Joint Force Staff College and Joint Combined Warfighting Schools. Again, those builds are very, very limited to a very few select enlisted personnel. And I can speak to that largely because I have been a part of joint billets and I've not had any formalized training. And I can tell you that the need is there. We definitely need that to move forward and combine those learned competencies through shared concepts, policies, doctrine, and education. Now that I've said the current state and the problems surrounding it, we're going to move into my proposal for the fix here. To be effective in joint operations, we must be effective in joint training, primarily on mission planning, command and control, and inter-service operability. Increased joint warfighting requires increased joint training. Currently, the Air Force PME has limited billets, as I mentioned before, less than 5% for attending the sister service PME courses, which you see on your screen in this image that's captured. Therefore, we need to increase the number of sister service billets and current PME courses that will give every student exposure to other services and thereby that joint training that I'm looking to propose. I look to do this through a 5-way split in all PME courses across all branches of service that will give equal familiarization to enlisted members when assuming joint assignments. This will be broken down to an even split of 20% for Air Force, 20% for Marines, 20% Navy, 20% Army, and finally the last 20% for Coast Guard, National Guard Reserves, and even foreign nations, because we do have joint billets with foreign nations abroad. I recommend also to reinstitute joint warfare training and back into the advanced leadership experience at all PME course curriculums. This change could take place almost immediately without any major expense due to curriculum development that's already been in the works. To increase the effectiveness of enlisted forces when a member is tasked to a joint assignment, I also recommend the creation of a joint training school for enlisted. This new joint training school wouldn't need to be a whole new construction project, when in fact the DoD could investigate the option of existing buildings that are vacant or available that could meet the requirements of what the course needs. This would be similar to the Joint Forces Staff College, which officers attend, as I mentioned before. This should be a higher directive from headquarters and included in part of the members' reporting instructions for that joint billet. Finally, as a culmination to the new joint training school, I recommend a live joint training exercise at the end of the course, which will provide the hands-on portion where the integrated services will work together to execute a strategic mission. It does not have to be full scale. It can be more computer-based simulation, but something that allows them to come together and utilize all the training to a end game, right, to an end goal, which is the joint warfighting picture. Now, with the proposal to fix our current state of operations now explained, we can now elaborate on the plan to implement all those recommendations. Major tasks and milestones of this proposal are on the form of policy and resourcing and the development of joint curriculum. First milestone will be the initial directive from the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to proceed with the proposal plan of joint enlisted professional military education. Sequentially, the next milestones will be the determination of facility locations, the securing of funds for construction and development, and the finalization of the design. Finally, curriculum will be completed by staff sourcing. New curriculum process should allow for 18 months to follow once the development process is completed by utilizing the guidebook of Air Force instructors, Air Force Manual 362236. And the last milestone will be the expected commencement of the inaugural class from the school. Now, with that, this proposed policy and procedure overhaul sets out to meet the Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff Vision 2020 by identifying enlisted joint training as a barrier to optimal capabilities in joint warfighting. Although this policy states that the core elements of joint capabilities reside in the individual member, the current policies do not fully address joint qualification of the largest part of the force, which is the enlisted personnel. So in conclusion, the purpose of this persuasive presentation was to establish cases for developing enlisted personnel for joint assignments. It opened with a discussion on our current state of joint operations and the underlying problem, which has drove the need to increase inter-service PME attendance, reinstitute joint warfare into the curriculum, and establish an in-residence enlisted joint warfare school. Lastly, it provided a way forward with a proposed implementation plan covering the elements needed to see the proposal through completion. I'll leave you with a lasting thought here. Today's operational environment has brought to light the need for an experienced and joint training force. As we move forward, it is important to remember that joint doctrine tactical competence is a prerequisite to victory at operational strategic levels. Again, my name is Shaun Hardy. This has been the final project for ENG 315 Professional and Business Communication. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.